Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Soul Ajar. You're listening to episode 4. Everything is embarrassing. And we're going to talk about how everything is embarrassing. Y'all know that song, Everything is Embarrassing. Y'all know that song. If you don't know that song, you should listen to that song by Sky Ferreira. It's so good. And yeah, everything is embarrassing. I am constantly embarrassed, but I'm also constantly trying to fight the feeling of being embarrassed because I hate that feeling. And also, one of my coworkers at work said, life is just getting embarrassed over and over again. And then later that week, I sent my friend, the song Everything is Embarrassing, and they thought it was my podcast episode. Oh, that's embarrassing. My phone's going off. I forgot to silent it. That's embarrassing. Just kidding. And they were like, oh my god, the name of your new podcast being Everything is Embarrassing. And I was like, no, actually, that's a song. But that's a good idea. So now it's my next podcast episode. Shout out to my friend. So, yeah. Today I'm going to be talking about how everything feels fucking embarrassing. And I figured since that's the topic of this episode, instead of doing a high and low, I'll do most embarrassing moment of the week and least embarrassing moment of the week. Most embarrassing moment of the week, probably. Oh, okay. Oh, it is 4th of July. So, yeah, there are fireworks going off. Most embarrassing moment of the week. Ugh, that's hard. There's a couple that come to mind. First of all, I was in a mosh pit and I got hit in the face, but I don't think anybody saw it. But I did get a little embarrassed for a second because for a second I really wanted to cry. And I was like, oh my god, this is so embarrassing. But I was like, you're not a little bitch. Like, you got this shit. And so I just kind of shook it off and I was fine. And I kept moshing. And now I'm bruised and sore. That, on a scale of 1 to 10, is actually not that embarrassing. Honestly, didn't really embarrass myself that much this week. Well, sometimes when I get high, I embarrass myself. Or like, but it's really interesting getting embarrassed in the moment versus getting embarrassed later. Like, sometimes when you're drunk or high, you don't really feel embarrassed in the moment, but then you feel embarrassed later. I was hanging out with one of my friends and I was like, did I embarrass myself? But then they validated me that they didn't, or that I didn't, and that they had so much fun. So I'm not even embarrassed about that, actually. Overall, this week has not been that embarrassing. I think, like, the older I get, the less I get embarrassed. But I don't know. My least embarrassing this moment. What the fuck? My god. This is embarrassing how I can't fucking talk. I did work all day and it was busy as fuck, y'all. 4th of July and it was raining, so everybody's plans got canceled. And BTW, fuck 4th of July. Just in case y'all weren't sure about that. Anyways. What is the opposite of embarrassment? Like, I'm gonna Google it. I mean, I imagine it's like pride, but I almost feel like that's like too much. What does Google say? Well, confidence. When did I feel confident this week? Like, I wasn't embarrassed. I was confident. I felt confident in my outfit when I went out to emo night. I was like, I look good. I'm not embarrassed by my outfit. I'm actually the opposite. I'm confident in it. Every time I create something, I feel pretty confident. Anytime I write a poem or make an art piece. And it's not even because I'm like cocky and I know that everything I make is amazing. It's more so just like, how can art be embarrassing? I guess it can be vulnerable. I guess I have shared my poetry specifically with people and felt a little embarrassed because I don't know how they feel about poetry, but overall, creating and sharing art makes me feel the opposite of embarrassed. It makes me feel confident. So yeah, That's my most embarrassing and least embarrassing moments of the week. I've been working on my confidence a lot over the past 6 months, trying to validate myself, and also being the type of person who gets embarrassed easily isn't really fun to be or be around. I don't want to be that person because it doesn't feel good, and I don't really want to be friends or hang out with people who get embarrassed super easily. That's so irritating. Because one, if it's me getting embarrassed easily, I feel like I need to mute myself or overthink. Two, if I'm with somebody and they get embarrassed easily, personally, I'm a very silly person. I'm a very silly gal. I am silly as fuck. I'm loud. I'm silly. I can't stand when somebody gets embarrassed by that. Like, obviously I know there's place and time. I'm not gonna be, like, at a fucking funeral giggling. But I'm like, if I'm at a grocery store and I'm laughing and maybe accidentally being a little bit too loud and somebody's like, oh my god, you're, like, embarrassing me. You need to be quiet. Shut the fuck up, bitch. Shut the fuck up. Has that happened to me before? Maybe. Am I gonna say what that situation was? No, because I don't even want to get into that. But that's annoying as fuck. It's embarrassing that you care. It's so embarrassing. Which, I mean, like, everybody has their own expectations and what they want to do. But personally, I don't want to fuck with somebody who gets embarrassed like that. That's so irritating. It's one thing if I'm actively getting on that person's nerves, I guess, but it's also just like, then you just don't like me because this is who I am. And I don't say that about things that are, like, actually, like, something I'm doing that's fucked up. But if I'm just being silly, really? We can't just be silly and have fun? Like, just because we're grown-ups doesn't mean we have to be fucking buttwads. I couldn't think of a word. Just because we're grown-ups doesn't mean that we have to, like, get embarrassed about everything and, like, overthink everything and not be silly. While I'm trying to work on, like, feeling more confident and not giving a fuck what other people think of me, which I feel like at my core, that is how I feel. One, because I love myself. I really do feel confident in myself, and I've been working so much on my self-talk lately, and it's working. It works. It really works. When you put an effort to love yourself, it really works. And I just put time into myself to make sure that I am who I want to be. And at the same time, it's not like you're trying to be yourself. You just are who you are. So I'm just learning to love myself while also taking care of myself, which makes me a better version of myself. And in turn, it makes me not care as much what people think of me. And when I say people, I don't mean people close to me, because I think I'm maybe a little too... I don't know if that would be embarrassed, though. Because I don't get embarrassed by the people that I love and care about the most. Or not embarrassed by. I don't get embarrassed by them at all. But I don't feel embarrassed in front of them, but I do get a little nervous sometimes. And I don't know where that stems from. I get a little nervous that maybe I'm, like, too much, or, like, oh my god, was that, like, too silly? Like, should I feel embarrassed? That kind of pressure of, like, okay, wait, I was just kind of being myself and, like, goofing around. And then not caring what people think of me in the moment, and then, like, a beat later or a day later or a week later or an hour later, whatever, I'm like, wait, should I feel embarrassed about that? Like, should I feel bad about that? Does that person, like, feel embarrassed by me, or are they judging me, or, like, am I annoying them? Like, should I apologize? That's when the anxiety comes in, and it's so annoying because it almost feels antithetical to my personality. Okay, this is like an editor's add-in because I was just listening and editing, and I wanted to add some advice that is something that's helped me when I feel this way, is it's okay to ask for validation. And also, remind yourself of the truth of the situation. If this person has never made you feel bad about being yourself, it's extremely unlikely that they are embarrassed by you. 2, it's okay to ask them, like, hey, did this bother you? Don't be extra about it. Don't ask them every time you hang out, because that's a lot. But it's okay to ask for validation sometimes. And I am a firm believer that it's always better to move based on what is actually true versus making assumptions about how somebody feels. So there's my 2 cents. There's the editor's note. My friend the other day was like, I love that you just don't care what people think. And I'm like, unfortunately, like, I do. But it's like, not because I actually do my actual core values, but because I have a fucking genetic anxiety. Probably. I say probably. I do have anxiety. And my anxiety makes me feel like I should care. So then I start second guessing, and it's kind of annoying. It's especially annoying when you become self-aware about anxiety and you recognize that it's actually not rooted in any reality. So, for example, if I'm hanging out with a friend and I know that this person loves me and is also silly goofy like me and has never complained or, like, been upset by me being silly goofy, and then I act silly goofy, and all of a sudden I have this feeling of, like, oh my god, was that too much? Like, oh my god, I should feel embarrassed. Like, I am being stupid. So what's the basis of that? Perhaps it's maybe something from childhood or whatever. I don't really know. I've definitely had moments in life where, like, people around me have, like, kind of implied that maybe I was, like, too much or, like, embarrassing or whatever. But I've always had a big personality and I've always been goofy, and for the most part that hasn't been, like, I was never bullied or anything. But I don't know. I think, like, even just, like, honestly, should I just talk about that? I mean, like, I've had a couple moments in my past relationship where I felt like my ex was like, oh my god, like, you're being too much right now. Like, when I was just, like, goofing around or being silly. Which I get people aren't always in the mood for that. But it's one thing when it's like that and the person's like, I need space. Versus, like, you need to stop doing that. I'm embarrassed by you. So, yeah. Perhaps it stems from that. Perhaps it stems from when we're younger and we're in middle school and you just want to be cool and you don't want to do anything embarrassing, but everything feels embarrassing because you don't know how to be cool, and all of a sudden the things that are cool aren't cool anymore, and that's embarrassing, and you're late to the trend, and that's so embarrassing. Take a shot every time I say embarrassing and you will die. What are some synonyms to embarrassing? Like, I'm curious. Awkwardness. I would say I'm pretty social. So I wouldn't say I'm socially awkward, but I definitely have, like, awkward moments. You know, where it's like, I don't know. Self-consciousness. Yeah, just being, like, super, super self-aware. And I hate that feeling so much. I hate when I'm having a good time and then all of a sudden I become super self-aware and self-conscious and, like, start overthinking what I'm doing because I don't want to embarrass myself. But it's also, like, all the things I'm doing aren't things that I would ever, like, judge somebody else for. And I guess, like, embarrassment is, like, you feel shame. I would never shame anybody for being themselves. So, okay, like, quick editor's note. When I say being themselves, I mean, like, being silly goofy. But if they're an asshole, I'm gonna shame them. Period. I don't think that I should feel embarrassed or shameful for, like, being myself. Another simile is uneasiness, discomfort, which I think is interesting that that's a synonym of embarrassment because that feels more physical to me. And that, is really real, because to me, I definitely feel like embarrassment, like in my body, because it kind of manifests anxiety. I think a lot of people say that they like their face gets red or hot when they're embarrassed. So it's definitely like a physical thing. Shyness. I'm definitely not shy. I've never been shy. I've always been pretty confident when it comes to talking to people, and I guess with like people that I'm pursuing romantically, I used to be a little bit more shy, but it was more like awkward than shy and more self-conscious than shy. Like I would still go for it, but it would be probably embarrassing. I never really feel embarrassed by other people. I think when I was younger, maybe I felt embarrassed by like my family, because, my parents are divorced and I'm not close with my sister, or I wasn't close with my sister growing up, so I was embarrassed about that. About how, like, I wasn't super close with my family, and, like, that's, I guess, a way I was, like, embarrassed by other people. But I think that that's sad, because, like, nobody actually cares about that. But some kids are judgmental about things like that. I have never put editor's notes on these podcast episodes, but today I keep thinking of things that just reminded me of a time that I was talking to my friends in middle school, and everybody was talking about the church that they went to, and I was so embarrassed because my family and I didn't go to church. That embarrassment that I felt in that moment is what fueled me to start going to church with my best friend, which literally led to me, like, being so Christian for years. Isn't that crazy? Like, I low-key shaped my identity around embarrassment, if you think about it, in a way. Whoa. Embarrassment had hands in middle school. But yeah, I never get embarrassed by my friends. I guess I would get embarrassed by family who are like more conservative. Like, that's embarrassing. But it's also just like completely not reflective of you. I guess I would be embarrassed if a friend was like rude to a server. I'd be a little embarrassed. Or like, I think about when I was younger and my mom like was rude to a cashier one time at JCPenney, and I was really embarrassed about that, because even though it's like, obviously it's not your fault, kid, like, but that's embarrassing to me. I guess that's a way that I have gotten embarrassed by somebody else. But I definitely get embarrassed by myself a lot more than I get embarrassed by other people. I don't think I really ever get embarrassed by other people, because my friends are good people, so they're not doing anything that embarrasses me. And I'm not doing anything that would embarrass me if I was friends with me. The things I feel embarrassed about, honestly, I shouldn't feel embarrassed about, because they're just human things. Like, I was trying to brainstorm things that I feel embarrassed about. First thing I put is falling. Falling is so embarrassing, especially in the moment, or like dropping things. Like, I'm a server, and like, I've only ever dropped like a tray one time, like a tray of drinks. It was when I first started, and I was so embarrassed because I just like didn't know what I was doing, and like I immediately started crying, and I remember looking up at the customer's face, and she was so sweet, and I just had like tears like saturating my eyes, and it was just so dramatic, and I was like, I'm so sorry, like, it's my first week, like, I don't know what I'm doing, and like, it feels so embarrassing in the moment, but I feel like embarrassment is a very temporary emotion. I'm sorry, guys, it's another goddamn editor's note. One time I spilled gravy on an old man too at work. That was really embarrassing. I also want to talk about one thing I find really embarrassing, which is getting angry. That is so embarrassing. Anytime I get mad, for example, if I get frustrated at work, like 1 minute later, you hear me just say in that clip, embarrassment is fleeting. Well, anger is fleeting just as much. Because I'll be really pissed off about something. Maybe it's because I'm an Aries moon. But I'll get super pissed off and I act ridiculous because anger is freaking embarrassing. And sometimes you just act super frustrated. And to me, that's embarrassing. Like, please control yourself. And then a minute later, I'm like, okay, it actually wasn't that serious, and now I'm really embarrassed. And I wish that I just took a breath instead of acting like that. So sometimes taking a breath and pausing and not acting acting irrationally. Why can't I say that word right? I'm just gonna leave that in because it's okay to do embarrassing shit. It's better to pause and take a moment so that you don't have to feel embarrassed about how you acted out of your emotions. That's another thing to add to the list. There's not a lot of things that I felt super embarrassed about in the moment that I still find really embarrassing. Honestly, truly. Like, there's things that I, was like, oh my god, I'm never gonna tell anybody that happened. Most of those things are, funny stories that I tell frequently. So, for me, sometimes I just have to think about something a lot, and then all of a sudden I realize, okay, it's not embarrassing anymore, it's funny. And it's human. It's human to do things that are awkward, to do things, honestly, it's even human, I would argue, to do things that feel shameful, or it's human. It's human. I'm only human. One embarrassing thing that happened to me, I guess at this point it was almost 2 years ago because it was on my 23rd birthday, and I was walking to class. I parked near campus and I was walking to class, and I went to UT Austin, so it's a city, and a lot of people have Lime bikes, which, if you don't know what those are, they're motorized scooters, or I meant scooters, not bikes. They're motorized scooters that people can take around the city, and they just kind of leave them out everywhere and people ride them around. Anyway, so I'm walking from my car going to my class, and I'm walking across the bike lane, and I tripped on a rock and I fell on my face. Remember, this is my birthday. I fell on my face, so my face is fucked up. As I'm falling onto my face, somebody's coming on a Lime scooter, and they hit me with their Lime scooter. I'm not even kidding. So I thought I had a fucking concussion. I remember I called my friend crying. And so I didn't go to class. I stand up. I wear glasses too, so that's embarrassing. My shit's everywhere. Because at this point, I think I used a tote bag. Fucking gay ass. I am gay. That's not me being fucking homophobic. I am gay. So my gay ass obviously had a tote bag, not a backpack at this point. And I think buttons had popped off the tote bag, and my glasses flew, and my phone flew, and this one guy came and helped, and then the girl on the scooter was oh my god, obviously she just hit somebody with her scooter. That's also embarrassing. That's embarrassing for you, girl. But also it wasn't really her fault, because I just obviously I wasn't gonna if I was just walking across real quick, it would have been fine. But because I fell, I was still there. And so it was probably just happened too quickly to for her to stop. But I stood up and I was kind of gathering myself. I was really I imagine it hurt really bad. I don't really remember, but I was really shook up. My face was bleeding, and I was trying really hard not to cry. I think I was kind of in shock, and the guy who picked up my glasses was are you okay? And the girl was are you okay? And I was I think so, I don't know. And then without saying anything, the girl who hit me with her scooter just drove away. She probably had to get to class, but I remember being okay. And so obviously I didn't go to class. I'm it's my birthday, and I just fucking fell on my face, and my face is bleeding. And I'm supposed to go out to the club tonight, and my fucking face is bleeding. So I get in my car, and it starts fucking pouring rain. It was storming. And I do not live far from campus, but I ended up turning down a weird road that was part of it was closed off, so I had to turn back around, and it was the most frustrating, embarrassing shit ever, when really it's just I was vulnerable and in pain, but it feels so embarrassing to fall. But it's when my friends fall, I'm not casting shame upon them. honestly, sometimes your friends fall and you're like, wait, that is kind of funny. Like, as long as they're not, like, super hurt. So it's like, you know that it's, like, kind of funny, too. Like, you know it's gonna be funny. But in the moment, I'm just like, this is fucking ass. Guess what? I ended up going out to the club that night with a Band-Aid on my nose, and it was fine. But, like, that was really embarrassing for me. And it was on my birthday, which just makes it, like, super embarrassing. But now I just think it's funny. What are other things that have happened to me that, like, in the moment they felt really embarrassing? Another thing, when I was in, like, 7th grade, I honestly, if you're my friend and you're listening to this, you probably already know this story because, like, I just think it's so funny. I think it was 7th grade. It was the Catching Fire premiere. So wait, when did that come out? 2013. So yeah, that would be 7th grade for me. 6th or 7th grade, I guess. Depending on what month, but I don't feel like looking. So I'm like 12, 13, and my friend and I went to the midnight premiere of Catching Fire, Hunger Games Catching Fire, and I remember my friend was obsessed with Josh Hutcherson. Like, she had a Josh Hutcherson pillowcase. Like, she loved that man. But I went with her, and she was like my best friend. And I think it was her mom and her older sister, who's already an adult at this point. And we went to the movie, and, like, after the movie, for some reason, I didn't pee, even though I had to pee. But, like, I don't know, I was just, like, chatting with my friend, whatever. We're walking to the car, and my friend starts making me laugh so hard, like, I'm crying laughing. All of a sudden, you know, like I said, I had to pee, but I didn't go for some reason. I was just like, I'll just go at home. I started pissing my pants. And when I say that, it was not just like a trinkle. Like, it was out. Like, it was full blown. It was full blown stream at this point. And I remember my friend's mom going, Heather, you're peeing. And I was already laughing so hard. That's why I was peeing, because I couldn't hold it. And it just kept making me laugh more. And so I kept peeing. Like, I could not get it to stop. Like, I could not. Like, I'm sure I was, like, crossing my legs, like, trying. But I was wearing jeans, too. I was wearing skinny jeans. So, like... And also, keep in mind, this was a midnight premiere for an extremely popular movie. Like, there's no way people didn't see me, because people were, like, walking to their cars. Like, that's so embarrassing, especially when you're that age. I mean, honestly, no, I take that back. No matter what age you are, I argue it would probably be more embarrassing if that happened to me now. But, like, everything feels 1,000 times more embarrassing when you're in middle school. But no, if that happened to me now, I would feel so embarrassed. I would feel so humiliated. Like, yeah. But now I just think it's so funny because it was, like, over a decade ago, which is crazy. Time, the passage of time, crazy. But now I just think it's funny. So everything does feel embarrassing for, like, a second, but I love how fleeting it is. Like, it's frustrating to have to deal with it, especially when you're just having a good time, and then all of a sudden I heard this aggravating, grating voice. What is that audio? I'll have to insert it in, because, like, I can't think of it. Like, I think it's from, like, Dance Off or something.
Now I want to sit back and relax and enjoy my evening, when all of a sudden I hear this agitating, grating voice.
Anyways, it's really annoying when you get, like, a twinge of anxiety all of a sudden. That's like, you are doing something wrong, like, you should feel embarrassed, or like, oh my god, that was so embarrassing. But it's pretty fleeting, which is nice. Another thing that feels embarrassing, making any sort of mistake. Whether you're new at something or you're seasoned, it just feels a little embarrassing. Like, making a mistake at work in front of people, it's like, ah, man. Today at work, actually, this was embarrassing. Oh my god, thank god this happened to me, and I already think it's funny. Today at work, it was really busy, like I said, July 4th, and I got this table's drink orders. Like, I put them in the POS too, and I got, like, quadruple set. Which, like, if you're not a server, it just means, like, I got 4 tables at once, and they all needed, like, I needed to greet them all and get drinks for all of them. So I was a little bit like, oh, fuck. Like, so I because I had one table that had people join them. So, and they wanted drinks and they wanted food and they wanted appetizers and they wanted like alcoholic drinks and lattes. So it was like a lot. So I was talking to them for like probably at least a few minutes. And then I went up to a table because I was like, they just got sat, and I give my whole spiel, like greeting myself, like, hey, my name's Heather, like, I'll be your server today. How are y'all doing? Can I get y'all started with anything to drink? And then I look at my toast, which is like where we put in the orders, and I'm like, I was confused because I saw that the table already had stuff on it. And then I look, and then I'm like, oh my God, I literally already greeted y'all, didn't I? And they were like, yeah, like we had the coffees and the waters. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, it got a little crazy there for a second. And I felt so embarrassed, but I was also like, I literally was like, I've literally never done that before. Like, I feel the need to like explain myself. And I'm like, they probably don't give a fuck. Like, I don't think they had been waiting that long. And so then I ended up just getting their food orders and like went and grabbed their drinks, and it was fine. But it was so embarrassing in the moment because I didn't know like if they were like, damn, this bitch is stupid, because I really am good at my job. It kind of feels embarrassing when you know you're good at something but you mess up, and it's like, wait, no, but like I swear I'm like not a flop, like you just saw the worst of me, but I promise like normally I'm on my game. But they actually tipped me like 25%, so you know what, they either felt really bad for me and were like embarrassed for me, and they were like, damn, we gotta cut this girl some slack, like she's ass at her job, or they really just like didn't care and they were like being sweet. But either way, that's something that happened to me that's embarrassing. Making mistakes, it's embarrassing, but never would I ever like shame somebody for making a mistake. So it's like, why let that feeling linger, you know? Like, why beat myself up over it? Because I think there's like getting embarrassed is kind of a spectrum. Like, there's getting embarrassed where it's like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. Ha ha ha, silly, we're already laughing about it. And then there's like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. Like, I don't want to tell anybody. Like, I want to cry. That was so embarrassing type shit. That is kind of the more embarrassment that I felt when I was like in middle school. One thing I have on this list is having a crush. Having a crush when you're like 12 years old is so humiliating and embarrassing. Are you kidding me? I would say having a crush now is also feels embarrassing because it makes you like think more about what you're doing. So everything feels a little bit more embarrassing because you're hyper aware of everything you're doing because they're kind of high stakes. You're like, okay, I'm in front of this person that I think is really cool and I think they're attractive and I like have feelings for them in this way and like blah, 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 blah. And I want them to think I'm cool and attractive, and I want them to have feelings for me in that way. So, like, I want to, like, be cool and attractive and, like, whatever. So then when you do anything that you're like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing, like, they're probably judging me for it, it's like, oh, so it's, like, heightened embarrassment. But also, side note to that, if you have a crush on somebody, that's the real time to be yourself, because at the end of the day, if a crush ends up not leading to anything because they don't feel the same way about you, that's okay, because you don't want somebody to get a crush on a performed version of yourself. But when I was 13, I didn't think like that. I was just like, oh my God, I need to be so cool for this person. But now that I'm an adult, it doesn't feel as high pressure because it's kind of just like, you know, I can feel this way about this person, and like, if they don't feel that way about me, it doesn't mean I suck. It doesn't mean that everything I do is embarrassing. It just means like, you know, they don't fuck with me like that. But that's okay, because like I am myself, so I'm not going to change myself in order for my crush to like me back. Like, what am I, 13 years old? Because when I was 13 years old, I was very willing to do that. I was very willing to change for my friends and very willing to change for my crushes, which, like, honestly, looking back on it as a lesbian, like, my crushes probably weren't actually anything. That was probably just compulsive heterosexuality. And my friends were my crushes in actuality. And my friends were the ones who I was really trying to impress. So, Yeah. So that makes it a little more complicated to talk about, but when I think about like the boy crushes I had, there was so much pressure surrounding that, and like it was so embarrassing to interact with them because I was insanely awkward and had no game, which like one, I was 12, so like obviously why would I have game? Two, like I didn't actually really like boys, so anytime I like had any chance to like physically interact with a boy, it was like insanely awkward and embarrassing. I remember there was this guy I dated in middle school and we went to the movies together. Oh my god, we went to the movies together and he tried to hold my hand and I like pulled my hand away and I was like, why the fuck did I do that? That was so embarrassing. Like I'm so awkward. Why did I do that? Girl, because maybe you just didn't like him like that. Maybe you feel nervous because like there's this narrative built up around like needing a boy to like you, but like once I actually started dating women, I never got to date like any girls when I was younger, but I did start dating women when I was like 19. I was like, oh, so it's actually not supposed to feel awkward like that. Like, yeah, you feel nervous, but you don't really feel embarrassed because it's like more organic. It feels more like the embarrassment is a lot more fleeting than it is when you're like pursuing people that you actually want and actually like connect with. Because for me, I just didn't really connect with boys because I wasn't a boy, I didn't like them, and I never hung out with them. I didn't know how to interact with them. I didn't have brothers. I don't know. And I'm a lesbian. So so like I just didn't really care. Like I wanted to hang out with my friends, but I also wanted to like have romance because my friends were having it, and so I was like, and I wanted that validation. But now I realize love and romance is so much more than that. And it's about like connection. Ugh, I love being a lesbian. Okay, anyways, sidetracked moment. Happy belated Pride. Another thing that's embarrassing, being messy. Oh my god, I have gone through phases of messiness. Like I used to be so much more messy, so much more messy. And now I have like found a good medium. My apartment right now is a little messy, but it's like I have craft supplies out because last night I was making a collage and like my bathroom has hair dye in it and I have a little bit of laundry to do. But like I used to be super messy where like I didn't want people to come over. I was so embarrassed. And like anytime I had people over, I would have to clean for like a couple hours. And it was so exhausting. But now like I don't know if it's my frontal lobe developing, but I'm pretty locked in with that. But being messy feels really embarrassing because you don't want people to like see your mess. Like, I don't know. I don't want to have people over and it's like my dirty underwear on the floor, or like there's piss in the toilet, or like I don't know, like dirty dishes in the sink. It's like I wouldn't judge people for that. But like I do feel a little embarrassed when like people come over and my stuff's like messy, or I feel the need to be like, sorry, it's messy. Even though when I've gone over to friends' places and they have dishes in the sink or like piss in the toilet, or okay, the piss in the toilet one's crazy, but like if they forgot to flush by accident, or like that actually did happen at my friend's place the other day. It's really funny. Like I wasn't even judging them. I'm like, don't feel embarrassed, bestie. Like it's just funny. Or like their dirty underwear were on the floor. I wouldn't really give a fuck at all. The only time I felt judgmental about somebody who was messy was like they had mold growing in their car. And also like she was kind of a bitch, so like she kind of deserved to be talked shit about. But like for my friends whom I love, I don't think it's embarrassing. It's so human to be messy. Like, what are we? Fucking in the military? Everything I'm talking about, I'm like, if my friends did that, I would never even think twice about it. So why would I be embarrassed about any of this? Is this episode making me realize that I just like get embarrassed over things that are like so arbitrary? Because like none of this matters. I can't think of anything else. Okay, I can, actually. One thing I find really embarrassing is that I used to be so Christian. I find that so embarrassing. Like, oh, it's so embarrassing when I think about it. It's so embarrassing when I think about how when I was 18 years old, I went on a mission trip. That's so embarrassing to me because ethically I don't agree with mission trips, and oh, it like breaks me, like it makes me feel so awkward anytime it like I like want to talk about it because like there's like something that happened that's like funny, or it's like it did allow me to travel. So I'm like want to talk about the places I've traveled to, but it's also like I don't want to talk about how I went on a mission trip because I think they're really ethically awful, and also it's just like really embarrassing. Ugh, that one I still haven't shooken. Like the other day I was telling my friend about it and I was like, why is this so hard to talk about for me? Like I think because I was technically an adult when I did it, like I feel more responsible for the decision. But I just like I don't know. I don't know. Like it just makes me feel so embarrassed because I'm like, why was I so like locked into the whole God thing? Like especially as somebody who like looks at Christianity now and thinks it's like stupid, and I am kind of like that is one thing that where it's like I do genuinely feel like it's a like and like I look at people who are like really really Christian in the way that I used to be Christian, and I'm like that's embarrassing. So the fact that I was in that and that I was really really in it, like I was really locked in, I find that really embarrassing. Okay, I found this thread on the ex-Christian Reddit thread or Reddit page that says how many ex-Christians have been embarrassed by their past Christian actions. And this person said, so I was talking to my husband about how embarrassed I am of how I treated people when I was a hardcore Christian. I told so many of my close friends they were going to hell. That's crazy. I never did that. I was never homophobic. I never told my close friends they were going to hell. I had a lot of non-Christian friends, and I think the most embarrassing thing I probably did was like when my youth pastor was like teaching me about like praying for people. Like the concept of like going up to people and praying for them, like that's embarrassing to me. That's really embarrassing to me. That's so embarrassing. But I was also when I was doing that, it was like when I was like 13. It wasn't like when I was an adult. And I don't think I ever did it when I wasn't. I really actually there's one memory, and I feel like I've talked about it on the podcast before, where I was at the movie theater and my youth pastor was with me, and I cannot remember if I actually did go up to that person and pray for them or if we just like prayed among ourselves. But like I think it was so embarrassing if it did happen that I can't like my brain will not let me remember. But that's fucking humiliating because if anybody came up to me and was like, "Can I pray over you right now?" I'd be like, "Fuck no. Get away from me, you freak." Like, no. It's so embarrassing. But um that's because I was around crazy ass adults who were teaching me some weird ass shit. And I was also around crazy ass adults who were teaching me weird ass shit when I was on the mission trip, which was for the world race. Fuck the world race, by the way. Crazy ass experience that I had when I was 18 years old. It was supposed to be a 9-month mission trip, gap year, after I graduated high school. And I knew somebody at my high school who did it. And they seemed like to have a lot of fun. At the time, I was very Christian, and I found a lot of like peace and solace in Christianity and really enjoyed like spirituality in that way. And I also was like thinking a lot about being how I was gay, but I hadn't told anybody at that point. I was still like the same person. I just really valued my faith. And I did go to a church that I wasn't super, super involved in, and I always felt a little awkward at. But it's because it was a church that, like, branched off of an old church that I went to in middle school that was, like, a cult, and the preacher was, like, a rapist, and yeah, so just like I have a really normal and healthy relationship with religion. But somehow in all of that, I was like, I like that we can connect with God. That's cool. I don't believe in God now. But at the time, I found a lot of personal value and identity in that aspect of it. Oh my god, editor's note. Fucking fireworks, yeah. It's like 10 p.m., so people are shooting off fireworks because it's 4th of July, but I'm out here grinding, editing my podcast. I, like, it. You can just tell how embarrassed I am by this, by how I'm speaking. I'm so embarrassed about the fact that, like, this is true about me. And I'm cringing listening to it because I just, like, it's like if you get it, you get it. I don't know what to tell you. I barely even get it myself because I'm so detached from that era of my life that I really can barely even explain it to people because it doesn't even feel like me anymore. Because it was so... The fucking fireworks. It was so long ago. And also just so different than how I view life now. I don't know. I had never, like, read the whole Bible before. I had never been, like, insanely consistent with going to church. But I listened to a lot of Christian music when I was younger. That was probably the most embarrassing thing. One of the more embarrassing things I did is, like, I don't know if y'all have the app, like, Stats FM, but it tells you, like, your entire, like, however long you've had Spotify or Apple Music, it tells you, like, your entire listening history and, like, which artists you've listened to most. Like, Bethel Music and, like, other Christian artists are really high up for me. It's super embarrassing. And also, I do remember, like, really wanting the people I would date to, like, believe in God too. And, like, I remember there was this guy I dated who was, like, super depressed, and, like, I'd be like, you just need to, like, turn to God, and, like, I know that, like, things are hard. And, like, I genuinely did think I was being helpful, and now in retrospect I'm like, girl, like, it's not like that. And I know I would, like, be pissed off now if somebody said that to me. Like, if I was, like, feeling depressed and somebody said, you just, like, need to, like, trust God. I don't even know what exactly I would say, but, like, that's embarrassing. And I'm regretful that I did that. But I thought I was trying to help. But also I was, like, 16, so I feel like I get a little bit of grace. But still, that's embarrassing to me. Anyways, let's go back to what this person on Reddit said. They said, and I acted completely self-righteous. I love that they say that because I think that Christianity is, like, inherently, arrogant. I think that, like, in order to be Christian, you have to be arrogant because it is, at the core of Christianity is, like, nothing else is right besides this. So every other belief is wrong, and every other belief that isn't Christianity is Satan. And everybody else is fucking stupid, and they're being deceived by Satan. If God is real, he's so fucking confusing, and, like, he's stupid. Because, like, this shit shouldn't be that hard. If it really is like that, it shouldn't be that fucking hard to figure out. But whatever. Okay, this person said, I was a Pentecostal Christian and I was extreme in my beliefs. I seriously think I was raised in a Christian cult because my childhood and young adult experience in church fits the definition of a cult. Same girl, low-key. And I even tried to start a chapter of this cult on my college campus as a college ministry. It was a big flop, thankfully. Oh my god, I think about things that I, like, thought that God wanted me to do. Like, I remember I was like, my old youth pastor was, like, talking to me about this, like, internship at his church in Indiana. And he was like, you should do it after you go on your mission trip. And I tried to apply to it and I didn't get it. Like, at the beginning of my mission trip, I tried to apply to it and I ended up going to UT instead. Thank God. Oh my god. Thank God I didn't fucking go intern at a church in Indiana. Oh my god. Me saying thank God. I'm like literally like that is like imagine I did get it. Oh my god. Oh my god. My life would be so terrible. Okay. This person said, "This hangs over my head as a big, shameful period of time in my life." That's how I feel about the time when I went on this mission trip. Like, I am so embarrassed about it, and I, like, rarely ever talk about it. Because it's just, like, one, it's a fever dream. Two, it's a little traumatic. And three, I'm embarrassed as fuck. Like, mission trips are the stupidest fucking things in the fucking world. Also, specifically the world race, they're so disorganized. They are fucking greedy. They are poor communicators. The leaders are fucking freaks. Like, they're like telling people like, oh, you had this dream about this guy. Like, it probably means you're gonna marry him. They like encourage people to do weird shit. They're weirdos, bro. They're fucking weirdos. Feels good to say that. And I'm gonna publish this. I don't give a fuck. Y'all are weirdos. If y'all are still in that shit, you're a weirdo and you need to grow up. You need to grow up and realize that that shit was embarrassing. This person said, "I'm just curious if others have had similar feelings when thinking about how they treated non-Christians when they were Christians. Because I feel super alone in this." This person said, "I once told my friend she's gonna burn in hell for being a lesbian. Guess who's no longer her friend and gay?" It's that self-hate. The most homophobic bitches love pussy. That's what I'm saying. I was never homophobic, though. I would say I had internalized homophobia when I was first coming out. Because I was super, super scared about going to hell. Yay! And I dealt with a lot of homophobia from Christian friends who were, like, uninviting me from their weddings and like being like, "Oh, I love you. I don't really support that, but I love you." Girl, fuck you. Fuck you. Fucking weirdos. Y'all are fucking weirdos. I don't give a fuck about y'all anymore, but y'all really made me feel like shit and made me want to die. Low-key. And also, y'all are probably still doing this embarrassing shit that I'm so embarrassed about, and y'all are still working at churches and like doing weirdo shit and being homophobic. And like, unfortunately, one of these people has a kid. Like, I hope that their kid's not gay for the kid's sake, not for their sake, but I hope that the kid doesn't have to deal with that shit. This person said, "Every goddamn day, you're not alone. My shame comes from years of blindly following pastors' advice and trying to adhere to strict biblical interpretations. Not to mention the few years of high school I helped raise money to save the babies with an anti-abortion right to life group." Oh my god. Guess who gives money to Planned Parenthood now? Me. I think it's almost like you can't do anything about, especially with things like that. It's like, fuck, you're raising money for anti-abortion right to life group. Like, fuck, like you really like put money and time into something that doesn't actually align with your values because you were essentially being brainwashed. So all you can do is move forward. Like for me, like I was essentially brainwashed by Christianity and by all these weirdo people who are telling me that God can talk to me and that we're supposed to pray for people and like that you can heal a fucking broken leg. Bitch, I had a youth pastor tell me this story one time where he like prayed over someone's broken ass leg and the person started sprinting and they were fine. Like, that is just scraping the surface. And like there's so many things that adults told me when I was younger up until I was like 19 that like I can't even remember, but all these crazy ass people, all these crazy ass Christian adults telling me all these weird ass things. And I'm so thankful that once I was an adult, I started to be like, what the fuck? Because it was on the World Race mission trip that I started deconstructing Christianity as a whole, where I was like, okay, so this isn't adding up. Y'all are weirdos. The Bible is weird too, BTW. And also like, if God is quote unquote talking to all of us, why do we all have such different interpretations of this shit? Oh wait, maybe because we're all just like pretending. It is literally shared psychosis. But that's still embarrassing that I was even duped by that, because there were people who were 16 years old who were like, that's stupid. But like, unfortunately, I fell for it. Unfortunately. And I can't do anything about it, and I can't change it. And it's a big, it's a 7th month portion of my life where I went on a mission trip and I was, you know, being a white person in these places where, like, they didn't want me there probably or need me there. And yeah, I was like thinking that I was helping by like working in daycares and schools and teaching English, but it's like, I don't know. I don't think that it's helpful. I think that it's really damaging, especially working with kids, to have people like coming and going constantly. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good for them. It's really not good for them. So, yeah. I didn't know what I was getting into when I did it. I was just like, this seems like a cool opportunity to travel. I love God. I want to follow God's plan for me. And I felt like that was it, because like I had somebody come to me and be like, this is something fun that I did. I want to do it. Like, I think you should do it. And I took my thought process of like, maybe I should do it. And even though I'd never cared much about traveling, I was actually really scared. And I was like, that's how I know it's God, because it doesn't actually align with what I actually want. Because I really just wanted to go to college. I had worked really hard in school to go to college, but then I got CAP for UT, which means you have to go to UTSA or whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'll just take a gap year and I'll do this instead, because clearly that's what God wants me to do, because I didn't immediately get into the college I wanted to go to. I'm just like, all these hoops I'm like jumping through. Yeah, wow, I'm really spilling a lot on this episode. Wow. So sometimes it helps to just talk about things and then they're not embarrassing, I guess. I don't know. I guess it helps that I'm talking to a vacuum and I don't know who's listening to this, so it makes it less embarrassing. This person said, yes, I was a total asshole when I was a Christian. I have many examples of this that I'm supremely embarrassed by. I remind myself that I'm not that person anymore. Also, I think that I didn't do anything that bad. Like, reading some of these, I'm like, God damn, I never did that shit. But I do still feel embarrassed, even though, like, as soon as I learned the harm that, like, mission trips cause, and I started clocking that Christianity is not it, I stopped doing it. But it's just like I didn't know what I didn't know. But that doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean it's okay to do something. Ignorance is not a good enough reason to just be like, well, I didn't know, so I'm not going to feel bad about it. No, I do feel bad about it. I do feel embarrassed about it still. I'm trying to find something on here that's going to help me feel a little bit better, but oh my God. This person said a childhood friend called me out on it a few years back about how I said he was possessed by demons. Holy shit. Oh my God. Like, that's so embarrassing. You're telling someone that they're possessed by demons. That's crazy. That's crazy. This person, I have to remind myself that I didn't enjoy doing those awful things. I did them because I feared for my soul and for the souls of my loved ones. That's real. There's a lot of fear in Christianity. I, like, feel like I, like, went on a mission trip because I had religious OCD, low-key religious anxiety, where I thought God was telling me to do things, but it was just, like, anxiety. Which is crazy, like, I made decisions that way, but yeah, I did things because I was brainwashed into thinking that, like, God was talking to me. Genuinely, and I have to give myself some grace for that. I can't feel embarrassed about it forever, but I just find it really difficult to talk about, especially to people who were never Christian, because, like, it's just so hard to explain, and I just feel so ashamed and embarrassed about, like, participating in that as, like, essentially an adult, because I was, like, 18. Making amends, somebody said. I'm actively in the process of making amends. It's kind of for them, but also for me to make peace with my past. I feel like I've done a really good job at reprimanding Christianity and like, I'm not scared to be like, fuck that shit. So, this person said, I think more than embarrassment, it's guilt and shame that linger for me. But therapy for the last year has really helped me have more compassion for my younger self. Many of us were programmed to think and live in black and white, to fear what was different or unknown, to treat ourselves like sinful little worm people, and the only thing good about us is God in us. Real. Real, like, it's so sad how that's literally the narrative of Christianity is like, we are empty, awful people, and the only reason we're good is because of God. It's fucking sick. It's disgusting. It's incredibly difficult to break free of that kind of programming. Yeah. Whenever I spiral and start to feel so guilty about the things I said or did, I try to remember that if I continue to beat myself up, I haven't really left that total depravity Christian mindset. Whoa. Whoa. That's crazy. This person said, I try to remind myself that I was raised by Christian parents and attended youth groups and was eager to please others and, quote, be good, so I fell in line. I was also absolutely terrified that I would be possessed by a demon. In parentheses, they said, pretty sure that was just anxiety. Real. So I was kind of obsessive about remaining, quote, pure of heart to prevent that from happening. I cringe about my past actions, but I'm also so grateful that I got out. Yeah. I'm also grateful that I'm not, like, still in that shit. This person said, I'm totally embarrassed and ashamed of my actions. I talk to my atheist boyfriend about it all the time. He is wonderful, patient, and supportive. He continues to remind me, you aren't like that anymore. You've grown, you're bettering yourself, and you're actively trying to make the world a better place. You make my life so much better, so just take that and look at how much you've grown. Oh, that just gave me chills. That's so sweet. And then the person said, instead of looking at your past, look at your present. Who are you now? Are you a better person? Are you actively making other people's lives better? We can't change what we did in the past, and dwelling on our past sins, quote unquote, isn't helpful. In fact, it's extremely toxic to constantly need to revisit that. Sure, we need to look at the whole picture, but you don't need reconciliation, forgiveness, or salvation from a being that doesn't exist, nor from organizations that do not care about your individuality. You need to come to terms with your past and be better now. That's easier said than done, but it's all we can do. I just look at how far I've come, and I'm pretty damn proud for breaking out of indoctrination, brainwashing, and cultist behavior. Am I perfect? Hell no. But I'm working on it day by day. Wow. I could cry. That's so beautiful. Oh, that's true. And I feel like that's kind of when you get embarrassed about anything. It's like you can't change what you did. And if you're embarrassed about something silly, it's also it's easier to get over it. Like I'm not like guilty because I pissed my pants when I was 13 at the Catching Fire Hunger Games premiere. I don't feel guilty about that. That's more just like embarrassing. Like, damn, that's embarrassing. But like when I feel embarrassed in a shameful way, like maybe I wasn't a good friend to somebody or how I acted when I was upset. It's like you can't just beat yourself up about it forever. You have to come to terms with it. Recognize that it happened. Don't be delusional and be like, I'm perfect. But also recognize that you're not the same person. I'm not the same person that I was when I was just going along with these things. And I've learned so much, thankfully, and I've grown in so many ways. And I'm not even close to doing any of these things that I'm embarrassed about. Talking about this made me realize that maybe nothing is embarrassing. Or maybe more so than everything being embarrassing. Like, yeah, maybe everything feels embarrassing for a second, but it's really fleeting. And embarrassment is temporary, self-love is forever, confidence is forever. the important thing about having confidence and self-love is that in embarrassing moments, you can still give yourself compassion. Like, I feel like since working on my confidence and self-love, like, one, in embarrassing moments, and two, in moments when I think about things I've done that I find embarrassing still, I'm able to give myself more compassion because I love myself and I work every day to be a person that aligns with my values. And that's all you can do, right? That's all we can do as human beings is be in the present moment. And we acknowledge our past wrongdoings and we acknowledge when people come to us and tell us maybe how those past wrongdoings hurt them and made them feel, and then we be better. And then we make mistakes and we feel embarrassed again, and then we learn from them. And maybe embarrassment is necessary in a way. I think it's just how you handle it. I think getting embarrassed when you're actively working on your self-confidence and self-love is a lot easier to handle when you're versus when you're super insecure and self-deprecating. So I hope that y'all all take some time to maybe think about something you're embarrassed about and consider perhaps how it's not that big of a deal if it's something silly, or consider how you've grown so much since you did that thing if it's something a little more serious that you're embarrassed about. Thank y'all for listening. Be silly and be in the present moment, honestly, because everything is embarrassing, but embarrassment is fleeting. So, yeah. Anyways, I'll see y'all in a couple, or I guess you'll hear me in a couple weeks again. And check out my vlog if you want. It's Poetry Girl on YouTube or Heather K. Stewart. I honestly feel like it's really hard to find YouTube channels, but if you go to my Instagram, find it at Heather K. Stewart. That's my Instagram. So, yeah. Okay, guys, I hope you'll have a lovely weekend or week or whatever the fuck. Whenever the fuck you're listening to this, I hope you have a good one. Okay, bye!